Hi! Here I am in here I am in my messy room, taking advantage of the little bit of time that I have to myself. So I thought I may as well vlog. And today is November 1st, start of NaNoWriMo. And as of the time that I'm recording this, I am at 3,118 words. And of course, the goal was 1,667 words because that's the average you want to at least keep to be like on time and not rushing. So I've surpassed that, but it's only 6:30 right now. So on the 29th, I have migraines. I have issues with migraines. I have chronic insomnia. There's a lot of stuff wrong with me because well, whatever. So I woke up. Because I have chronic insomnia, I often end up falling asleep in the middle of the night and middle of the day. And I took a nap and I woke up and I was extremely disoriented and confused for some reason when I woke up. And I'm looking around and I'm like, where's Derek? I don't know what's going on. And I was just really confused. And I remember looking across the room and looking at the time, and it didn't mean anything to me for whatever reason. And I remember texting Derek and saying, where are you? Because I was just so confused. And I'm just sitting around, and Derek comes, eventually Derek comes in the house, he comes in the room, and I went to ask him a question. I think what I wanted to ask was, how long have you been gone? Because I was just really confused. And what I said was, and then I tried again. I was like, because I actually couldn't talk. Actually, it's not funny, but it's funny to me because everything's funny because I'm just so jaded with life sometimes that every horrible thing that happens is funny to me. So what happened was I was experiencing aphasia, which is one of the most common and well-known symptoms of stroke, but supposedly, according to what I looked up, it can be a symptom from someone who has migraines. And while this isn't my first experience with aphasia, this is my first experience with aphasia regarding migraines. Aphasia is basically the sudden difficulty of using and understanding words. I could understand what he was saying and I could still write, which I ended up having to do. I remember I got so frustrated because nothing was coming out. I just kept trying to talk. I couldn't talk. And I just threw up my hands and I wrote that I couldn't talk. And he asked if I wanted to go to the hospital. And I said no because I figured I wasn't dying. I don't care what anyone says. I already got lectured by a nurse and my mother. And I was not dying. I'm sorry. Wasn't dying. So, and I don't like hospitals. Even the VA hospital I do not like, and I definitely darn sure wasn't going to a hospital in this area or having an ambulance called because I'm black and I have tattoos and there's a lot of meth going on, so they probably would just accuse me of drugs, and if I was dying, they probably would have just left me to die. So what's the point? May as well die in the house. So I just kept thinking, well, I'm just going to wait until it goes away, and for some reason if it gets worse, and I will signal him or I'll throw a phone at him or something and he'll know what to do. So after about a half hour, maybe less than a half hour, maybe about 20 minutes, I found that I can talk again. But then that's when the actual migraine started, and it was probably one of the worst migraines I've had in a couple years. And I'm still, a couple days later, I still have the migraine. It goes back and forth as far as pain is concerned behind the left eye, but it hasn't completely gone away. If you're wondering what the first time I ever had aphasia was, that was around 2009, I believe. There's a whole slew of things that I won't talk about, but there was around a time where some doctor decided to put me on about 10 different medications, and I could not speak, understand people speaking. I could not write or read, and part of my body, I was having problems with the left half of my body and did not call the hospital then either, even though I probably should that time. I'm just very hard-headed. Well, that was a very interesting situation, but I did call the VA clinic Friday and explained to what happened. Nurse called me back and said, well, you should have called 911. You could have died. If that happens again, call 911. I'm like, yeah, okay. And the only thing that I think could have caused such a change beyond my typical migraine routine is that I started a birth control, because I've been on the depot shot, which really isn't something that a person with polycystic ovary syndrome should take. And so she gave me this birth control, and I had asked her if she wanted me to wait until I got my period, which could easily take a year if you're on a depot shot. And she said, no, just start taking it, because she's trying to get my body, trying to force my body to act normal. So that's the only thing I could think is just too much going on. I spent half of yesterday and half of today attempting to claw my face off and the top of my hands off, because I had stuffed myself silly with candy corn because I like candy corn, but I happen to be allergic to synthetic glycerin. But I don't pay attention to any ingredients on any food item because I don't have any food allergies. And why am I going to go look around for glycerin in every item? Because there are different types of glycerin. So what the F? Okay, I've had issues with glycerin all my life, but usually it's skin-wise. So like I always have to be careful for years, not all my life, but my teenage years at least. Had to be careful with what body washes I use. Otherwise, like if I keep using it, it ends up breaking out in hives and stuff like that. Because then it's usually, and from what I understand now, it's usually synthetic glycerin as opposed to vegetable glycerin or glycerin that's derived from animal protein. Synthetic glycerin is derived from propylene, which is why, as a vapor, propylene glycol is pretty much death in a bottle. The thing about me is that my allergy is not fatal in the way that like if I were to eat candy corn, all of a sudden I have anaphylaxis. That's not the. It's fatal in the sense that is where it's accumulative. So if I just decide to just keep eating candy corn every day for say like 15, 16 days, then I probably would have to be taken to a hospital. That's actually the same way my body reacts to penicillin. If you gave me penicillin and somehow I could not tell by the horrific smell and taste that it's penicillin, I could probably get away with putting that in my system for about 3 or 4 days before I would start itching and eventually break out completely in hives and have a headache, and then eventually my throat starts to close in steps, and then I'd probably die at some point. But that's how my body reacts to propylene glycol. I found that I found it out the hard way when I first started vaping, but I did not know where synthetic glycerin came from because I never looked it up. Because I think that's about it in my adventures of a human being that has no life. I will probably do an update for NaNoWriMo tomorrow. I just don't want to say anything until I close the day. And that's about it. Bye.